Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Edge-related panel discussion. My name is Timo Jokiaho. I am Chief Technologist at the Red Hat Global Telco team, and the title of the panel today is Edge, Myth or Holy Grail of Telcos. And we have a great lineup today, the panelists. And I'm really looking forward to this panel. We have Neil McRae from British Telecom. We have Anand Shah from Verizon. We have Rashim Kapoor from Bharti Airtel and Franz Kasparek from Atos. Welcome, gentlemen, to this panel. Now, Edge is an interesting topic. It is a hot topic in the industry. One of those, of course, we have others. But Edge has always been there in a form or another. It has been kind of a closed edge, if I may say so, for a very specific purpose and for a very specific vendors to bring edge. What has changed and is changing as we speak is to have edge as an open edge platform with open environment and able to host multiple edge applications at one time, whatever those might be, which we are going to discuss today. So it's changing. Now, first of all, I'd like to hear from all of you your first thoughts on what edge is and what edge means to you. Is it even important? And if not, why not? So let's go round the table and a little bit discuss about it. So Neil, why don't you start from your and British Telecom point of view, how this looks like?
For me, I think edge is for telcos. Edge has always been important. We connect customers at the edge of the network. We do most of the functionality at the edge of the network, and I think what edge compute is bringing is an ability to do more at the edge, rather than tromboning everything to the cloud and back. So edge was important, edge is important, edge will be important, and I think for us, we see it as a way of bringing new services and new solutions, particularly on the enterprise side, where latency, reliability, privacy, security is increasingly important, and also scalability. But also for consumers with certain use cases in video gaming and other kind of environmental video solutions like virtual reality, where latency is the enemy. But probably, as I speak, there's probably thousands of developers thinking of new ways to use the edge and ways that we can't even imagine or we didn't imagine. So for us, it's just about putting a capability closer to the customer that allows much more rich services for customers.
Very good. Sounds interesting. Let's keep these thoughts in mind. Anand, what about you and from Verizon?
From our side, as a company, we've been working on virtualizing so many of our network functions, including the RAN components and the core components, for so long now, right? It's been a multi-year journey, and we've almost virtualized, containerized all the functions that are there to do with the core. And we've built a hierarchy, right? You have the data centers, you have the core centers, you have the edge centers and the far edge centers, which come closer and closer and closer to the consumer or the enterprise, right? So naturally, it was a fit saying that, hey, we've virtualized so many of our components. Each one of these locations is a place where we could technically put edge, right? And that's what we've done. We've partnered with some of the hyperscalers out there, and we've put with AWS, we put Wavelength as an edge component for many of our consumers and with our enterprises. And with the onset of these heavy applications, when you talk about computer vision, augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, whatever it is, there's a lot of data flow that's going back and forth from device and cloud and device. And naturally, there needs to be another component in the middle which delivers you the best of cloud and the best of on the device compute. And that's where the telco edge comes in. So we as a company think it's a very important initiative. It's one of our top 5 things that we concentrate on as well. And we're definitely seeing the demand from enterprise coming in quick.
And last but definitely not least, Franz, how does that look like from your point of view as a system integrator?
I would say for me and for Atos, Edge introduces a new era of digital transformation. We have digital transformation everywhere. We are transforming processes of all kinds. And the idea of Edge is that this digital transformation becomes distributed. It becomes networked. We can do digital transformation that includes the factory floor. We can do digital transformation that includes the streets of a smart city. So it is not restricted to a data center. And at the same time, this digital transformation becomes a business for telcos. Telcos not only do transport networks, telcos get more and more engaged with value-add services for all sorts of digitalization, for use cases that are related to edge computing. Well, and last but not least, Edge is also a big chance for companies like Atos who who help telcos build their network equipment as well as their value-add services, who can set up these end-to-end Edge systems. So we are entering distributed digital transformation and a distributed digital transformation age, if you want.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, from a Red Hat point of view, we don't provide any use cases and any edge use cases. We are an enabler for the industry to build edge data centers and edge use cases, and that kind of brings me to the next topic we would probably like to discuss, is that how the edge builds into your strategy, and what is the role of edge, and what use cases you guys are seeing short term, mid term, and long term. What would be really the leading use cases and the leading role of edge?
The first thing that we're seeing right now is we talk about all the big, cool, sexy use cases out there, getting AR glasses, VR glasses onto Edge and all, and that'll come slowly, right? There's an evolution when the technology will slowly get and have their application offloaded onto Edge. But at least for now, the way we see it is that it's a platform that allows developers to have a much higher reliability, a much higher throughput or bandwidth, higher security, and the most important, of course, the obvious one, is significantly lower latency. So now we're talking about a continuum off the device that you're used to programming, let's say, a computer vision application on, right? Today's smart city cameras that are on the corners of the streets in New York City, they're $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 because it's not just the lens, but there's a heavy compute platform to it. So a lot of use cases we're seeing is, hey, how can we get that camera down to $100? Simply a lens with raw uncoded video that's sent back to MEC, and where MEC can host the computer vision that's needed for all the cameras out there. So you're getting your algorithms from the cloud that are being trained, but the inferencing is happening right at the edge, and you're getting the data right away. So things like gunshot detection, things like jaywalking, things like any kind of burglary or theft detection, that could be done almost instantaneously. And there's this shared value where it's much cheaper for both the enterprise and for the developer.
Very good. Anybody else want to go?
Yeah, sure.
In my view, the first thing which is going to happen on the edge is the content is hosted where it is consumed. So I think that would become a biggest use case. And if you see, all the hyperscalers are also trying to push the edge cloud. If you take example of AWS, their keen interest would be to host their own content so that it is basically hosted wherever it is consumed would be the first kind of the applications which would come.
All right, Neil.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what we're seeing now is some what I would call the kind of leader type use cases where we're trying to show customers the art of the possible. We're working in one example. We're working with Belfast Port, where we've deployed a large number of we've deployed a 5G private network. We've deployed a whole bunch of 5G enabled devices. We've got a lot of video cameras in and video capability linked to video analytics to allow them to unload container ships quicker and also connect the ongoing transportation or the containers coming in to go out, making that path as optimal as possible. Quite often, there's a lot of restacking of containers because one of them needs to go on a ship or one of them needs to go into a specific onward vehicle for transportation locally. And just by building in some video analytics, using a 5G private network and edge compute on the premise, because it's important for them that if in the unlikely event the network's got challenges, that they can still continue to work. We see that the efficiency of somewhere like Belfast Port increased massively. And especially right now where there's a lot of supply chain issues in the world, you hear quite a lot about it, both in technology but also in raw materials and other goods. Having ports that are getting more efficient is super important. But we also have a use case working with some small manufacturing companies where they are using edge compute that's heavily 3D video optimized, working with our great partner NVIDIA, so that they can design products in the cloud with the compute power that can simulate failures, can simulate different types of materials, can simulate all the things that a manufacturer has to do now for approvals, etc. And then they can 3D print it locally. They can have a small printer. They can print a prototype, so they can get a sense of what their product looks like whilst working from home. And we see a lot of interest in that use case, particularly in automotive, but also in aerospace, where being able to bring the compute power to the home in a way that's never been doable before or closer to the home is providing real value. But even I look at edge as in the home too, and we've uplifted the compute power in our home gateways and our set-top boxes to be able to improve the Wi-Fi connectivity in the home, to do security and analytics in the home, making sure that the right devices at home are the ones that you expect them to be. Again, with home working, the risk of the security incident is increasing. Someone puts a sniffer into your house. How do you know it's there? And again, we're using edge compute and analytics and linking the edge at home to the kind of edge in our central office, or even back in the data center, to be able to do all that processing power. But then finally, use case that we've had running for some time, which is around stadium. And if you think about a stadium has many different modes. It kind of starts as people trying to get in, people queuing, people then paying to get through or checking tickets, then people trying to find a hot dog and a beer, and then people trying to find their seats, and then people trying to watch the event. And we're using the edge to augment and repurpose the radio in the stadium and other signage and other capabilities in the stadium, whilst the stadium goes through these kind of time segments. And then obviously people leaving. And we found that, having edge compute we have it at Wembley Soccer Stadium here in London. It provides an improved customer service, because we can tell Wembley Stadium that actually this part of the stadium's got lots of people that you're trying to get in, whilst this other gate has got no one there. Why don't you move some people around there? And people really get the benefit of that without realizing that it's the network that's powering that.
So, assuming the question is about strategy, I believe that all of us need to address edge at multiple levels. There is an aspect of the edge applications, of all the use cases. There is an aspect of the infrastructure. There is an aspect of security. And what I see for my company is very important is the convergence between all these and other aspects. So we see today, for example, that there are networks, and networks have long been considered just dump pipes for transport, for edge computing. That is changing. We are entering an age where the transport network is a part of the end-to-end solution, where the edge applications through an edge platform do traffic shaping, do monitoring of the network. So if I'm asked what the key challenge or key strategy point is, I would say it is to handle this convergence. To handle the connections between networks, between platforms to run edge applications, possibly also between between all that and the services to operate edge applications, and to make it a meaningful whole, to make it a meaningful end-to-end solution where modern distributed digital transformation, as I called it, has an influence and is directly integrated with network functions. So I think that's the priority in edge matters. I hope I could answer the question. Like I said, I am not sure I understood it properly.
No, that's all good. Maybe my question was not very clear, but that's good. That was a good thing to listen into. Now, we all understand that security is one of the challenges, and similar things are challenged as well. So, how would you see what would need to happen to enable a multi-vendor edge integration, or multi-vendor deployment rather, on the edge? What needs to happen? What kind of technology needs to be there, and what kind of competencies companies we all should have to make a multi-vendor fully functional edge reality?
But I think ultimately the operating system and the network components are increasingly becoming similar in nature. So, are there specific types of multi-vendor requirements? Perhaps, but I think the more we try to make less combinations, I think the better it is. Our central offices and cell towers are not great locations to put compute power. I think when we built them and designed them, they never really were for that. So, in my mind, I don't see any big issues or big complexities with that. In telco, we've been dealing multi-vendor from the start. I think it's all about, really ultimately, it's all about the tooling. And I think if your tooling can't cope with that, then you're probably in real trouble, because what you don't want to be doing is trying to make things manual. You want to automate as much as you possibly can, and also be able to extract, analytics to show how the solutions or the capabilities that you're building are working as you expect.
Yeah, very good. Anand, any thoughts from your side?
I have two trains of thoughts here, essentially around taming the edge, right? When we talk about just the devices itself, there's so many different types of devices that are out there. There's some that are on ARM-based hardware, some that are on x86-based hardware, some that are containerized services, some that are VMs. Just having a proper management system that allows you to see all the applications that are out there, all the devices that are out there, being able to have a zero trust infrastructure to protect that, making sure that you have the most up-to-date OS and the patches. And so that's on the device side, right? To make sure you could tame all the devices that are out there and keep track of them. The other one, very close to what Neil was talking about, was the DevOps side. On the mech side, there's so many different kinds of instances when it comes to private and public mech. Again, different hardwares, different CAS platforms, PaaS platforms that are out there, and just keeping up with the DevOps tools and the open source tools out there can sometimes become a nightmare, and we're trying to go through that. And Kubernetes is a super powerful containerization platform, but I need my Kubernetes tracked and maintained across my private edge, my public, my cloud, my device, whatever it is. So there, instead of having DevOps having all their time consumed and writing up a ton of YAML files to keep up with all the business demands, that's not how it goes. We need a system that is much better at orchestrating all my Kubernetes instances across several different clouds, right? Integrating more repositories, more tools, having a management of all the clusters that are out there. All this is significantly important. And it's not something we've cracked yet, but it's something that we need to go towards, especially when we think about all the different vendors, hardware, softwares that are coming in the pipeline in the next couple of years.
Yeah, very, very good. Now, time is flying and we seem to be running out of time. So, just asking the last thoughts from anybody.
Yeah, this is Rashim. So on
Yeah.
this topic, I have got 3 points to make very briefly. The first point is that I think most of the service providers will like to reduce the number of combinations which comes in the network, at least from the infrastructure standpoint. There has to be minimum SUQs on the hardware side. A common, say, a Vim layer or a container layer should be hosting both the RAN and the core kind of a workload, and that should be the key to minimize the number of combinations. Second, the lifecycle management of the infrastructure and the application workload would become very, very important because of a vertical kind of a stack integration. So what kind of exercises the service provider will do in the lab to maintain the life cycle would be the second key point. And the third key point would be the serviceability in terms of how the current resource orchestrators are evolved to the service orchestrator, how the current performance management systems are evolved to a service assurance kind of a system to have a more productive operations, both from the operations standpoint and the service provisioning standpoint.
Edge is beachfront property here, and everyone is going to realize that sooner or later. And what we need to do is it's a shared value platform, so the consumers, enterprises, and developers are going to get some benefit out of the entire platform. And we need to think of it as a continuum. It's no more an or function that I deploy my app on the device or on the edge or on the cloud. It's an and function. When we are developing the application, there will need to be pieces that'll be on the device, pieces that'll need to be on the cloud, and most importantly, pieces that'll need to be on a telco edge to be minimizing your own cost, but maximizing your value to your enterprises and your customers. And that'll be very important to make sure that when we're educating, when we're building apps, whatever it is, you now have a continuum and troves of CPU and GPU that you could tap into all the way from the device to the cloud and things in the middle. And that's where we need to start tapping into educating, start dabbling into, and trialing.
I'd like to thank the panelists very, very much. This was very good. I tried to make good notes on this thing, and we are done. So thanks a lot one more time, and happy to be here with you.